Good afternoon, Dr. Strange, and today I will be going over what I would do with my RTI group. My RTI group is the students who score 10 points above and or below the passing score on their assessment of 60%. Also, this is the first time that they are introduced to decimals in the 4th grade, and this may be the reason why they are struggling or have misconceptions, is because this is the first time. In 3rd grade, they learned about comparing and ordering whole numbers, and maybe they didn't grasp the content in 3rd grade and are struggling with whole numbers and now introducing decimals. And so this is my teaching segment. Good afternoon, class. So today we are going to go over and learn comparing and ordering decimals. And I know that we have talked about it before, and this is all just review, but I want us to go over it because on our assessment, this was the content that y'all had missed on the question. So I just want to go over it, and then we're going to later on look at the question itself that y'all missed. But I want us to review a few things. So we're going to talk about comparing and ordering decimals. So right here I have a sequence of decimals. So I have 11.3, 1.67, 0.52, 0.9, 0.03. So I wrote right here is mark place value chart. I already wrote them out. We have our tens place and our ones place. And then we have our decimal. And then we have our hundredths place, our tenths place, and our hundredths place. So can anyone tell me what do they see different? Yes, Sally? You notice that there's not a ones place here? Good job. Anyone else? John, you notice that these end in S and these end in THS? That is true, and that is very important because we notice that on the ones left of the decimal, they end in S. We have our tens and our whole and our ones. The numbers on the left side of the decimal represent whole numbers. So let's go ahead and write whole numbers. These are our whole numbers. And we have on the tenths place and the hundredths place, these are not whole numbers. This is part of a whole. So let's go ahead and put part of a whole. So what I want us to look at is that on this side, the tens place value holds more value than the ones place value, okay? Remember, we have already talked about this. So is it y'all kind of remembering how we talked about this? And now we have on the right side of the decimal, we know that the tens place value holds more value than the hundredths place value, okay? So now I want us to, we're just gonna fill in our chart. So we're gonna write these numbers out. So we have 11.3. We have 1.67, 0. Oops, not our point here. We put our point here. 52.9 and 0.03. So if you look closely, we have two numbers right here. So we have our tens and our ones. So that's why we put the 1 here and another one here, because this is tens and these are our ones. So now what I want us to do is I want us to put in our zeros. So let's get another marker. And let's go ahead and put in our zeros. And the reason why I want us to put in our zeros is because when it comes to adding and subtracting, it's going to help you to see that just because there isn't a number here, it doesn't mean there isn't a value there. There's still a value of 0, okay? So we put in our 0. And because we have numbers here, we want to fill in the blanks. It'll help us visualize better, okay? And then also on the other side of our decimals, we can put a 0. So this can show us that we have 0 whole numbers on the left side of the decimal for 0.9 and 0.03. Okay, so now what I want us to do is I want us to order from least to greatest, okay? So does anyone want to take a guess on which one has the least value? Now remember, the tenths place value has more value than the hundredths place value. So who thinks one of these numbers, which one of these numbers should be first to represent our least? John, you think 0.9 should go first? I don't think that's it. Does anybody want to help him? Allie, do you think the 0.03 should go first? Why? Oh, you remembered that the tenths place value holds more value than the hundredths. So that means that this one is less. Great job. So let's go ahead and write 0.03. Okay, so we can go ahead and cross that out so we can see what should go next. So these two have whole numbers, right? So let's not look at those. We have these two. Let's compare these two. We have 0.52 and 0.9. So we have them right here. Remember, our tenths place value holds more value. So we got to compare the 5 and the 9. Even though this one has two numbers, this is why we put in our 0 so we can see the whole value. So if we're comparing the 5 and the 9, which one is closer to being a whole number? The 9, right? So we're not going to put 9 first. We're going to put 0.52 because that one's less than 0.9. Good job. 0.52. Now, this one's our last one without a whole number. So that's how we know that we can go ahead and add it. 0.9. Now we're going to look at our whole numbers. We're going to look on the left side of the decimal. We have 11 and 1. Which one has more value? The 1 in the ones or 11 because it's in the tenths place value. So we're going to go ahead and add the 1.67 because that is less than 11.3. 1.67. And then we're going to have our last number is 11.3. And that is this is how it looks from least to greatest. Great job. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shift to comparing decimals, okay? So I have a chart. In each chart, you have 100 squares and 100 squares. I want us to remember that this whole represents 1. This whole represents 1, and this whole represents 1. So if I were to shade all of this in, that would mean I have one whole number, okay? But right now we want to shade in 0.5, okay? Okay, so I want us to shade in what 0.5 means. Let's go ahead and fill in our 0 first because you see how this one has 2. Let's fill it in so that we can see what we're doing, okay? So you have 0.50 and 0.05. Remember, this is our tenths place value and our hundredths. So we have our tenths and our hundredths. So we have our 10. So if we have 0.5, that's 0.50. If I have 100 items and I only need 50, that's half, right? So we're going to shade in half of this chart. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to go up 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to go ahead and shade in all of these, right? So that y'all can see. This is 0.50. And I want y'all to remember that if I didn't have any of this, let's see. All of this is 1/10, right? We have 1/10. This whole chart is made up of 10 of these 1/10s, right? Because we're looking at the tenths place value right here. So now I want us to go over here. We have 0.05. This 5 is in our hundredths place value. So if we have 100 squares, how many do you think we're gonna shade in of our 5 of our hundredths? Because over here we had 5 in our tenths place value. So we shaded in 5 of our tenths value, right? So let me go ahead and just show that to you. We have 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, and so on and so forth. Well, let's go to 5/10, 4/10, and 5/10. And we have 10 columns make up one whole. So now that we're on this side and we have 500ths, remember hundreds, the TH, and we have 100 squares. How many do you think we're gonna shade in? We're gonna shade in 5, only 5, because our 5 is in our hundredths place value. So that means we only need to shade in 5 out of the whole 100. This one we shaded in 5 out of the tenths. Now we're gonna do 5 out of the 100. So we can pick any 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now what I want us to do is I want us to practice stacking it. The reason why I want us to practice stacking it, because when we're going to adding and subtracting, it's going to help y'all add and subtract better. Because remember, we're supposed to align the decimals. So if we have 0.50 and we have 0.05, we're going to align them up by the decimal. Now what I want us to do is I want us to see which one is greater, okay? So if I have 0.50 and 0.05, which one? I want us to write our greater than, less than, or equal to sign, okay? So which one do you think is bigger? Which one do you think has more value? Because remember, we have our tenths place value and our hundredths place value. And our tenths place value is more than our hundredths place value, only on the right side of our decimal. So, Sarah, which way do you think our alligator mouth needs to be pointing? Do we need to put it this way or this way? Do you say this way? But why? Oh, because the tenths place value has more value than our hundredths. Great job. So let's go ahead and get a different marker. And you can come and write this in for me. Great job. Thank you, Sarah.